We can see your screen. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Cool. So I'll try my best not to repeat anything that was said, and it was very good content. And I'll just skip over what I think may have been already touched on. But my understanding of a go-to-market strategy is an evolving one, and it's really dependent on what stage you are at as a business, as a company, or the concept you're on. So your strategy is essentially a moving target. And why I think it's important to keep this in mind is that ideally you can do everything that you dream of as a startup. You can sell to the government, to consumers, to businesses, and everyone, but you always have a limitation in terms of resources. So at every stage, you want to make sure that you understand what your objective is at that particular stage, and what go-to-market looks like for you at that particular stage. So I've had some office hours with a few of you, and this presentation is really just an attempt to respond to just the trends I've been noting, and also that's the benefit of hearing your presentations tonight. So I've tried to outline 3 overarching stages. It will look different for your company depending on who your target customer is, exactly what your business does. But essentially, that initial stage, right, 10 customers or less, it's no use trying to build a huge sales funnel. You're building a Ferrari or Rolls Royce, or like, you're not going to get any gold stars on your forehead for doing that if in that early stage, all you need to prove is whether your solution solves the problem that you've identified, right? So most of the times what we end up doing is we create this elaborate plan to get big customers without really figuring out and validating whether our solution solves the problem identified. And what ends up happening is you spend so much time trying to figure out what exactly is the right thing to say, who exactly is the right person to pitch this to, when often than not, the solution to some of these questions is knowing who you're speaking to, and that just solves a lot, right? Just knowing your customer and knowing that they actually have the problem you think they have. Now, if you're solving a problem that you have, this stage becomes a lot easier for you because you most likely know a few more people who have the problem that you have, right? So what go-to-market would look like at this stage is wildly different than what it would look like at a later stage, right? So I don't want to prescribe strategies to work on here because you may have a different user, you may have a different set of characteristics of an ICP, like what Mauricio said. But I think what's important to understand is the frame of thinking at this stage, which is, does my solution solve the problem identified, right? So it was Ayodeji's point around what is the shortest route to sales, right? You just want to, if you can, handpick people, right? This is not the stage for you to prove that you're like the best person to put together a sales funnel, right? So that's less than 10 customers. Then you move to 10 to 100, and I'm just using ballpark figures. It'll look different again based on your situation. The objective here is, does my product deliver the solution effectively, right? So ideally is when you're at this stage, you've validated that the problem exists, you validated in some way or form that your solution solves the problem identified. Now you're attempting to build a product, right? You're attempting to get more users who will be a little bit more detached than your initial 10 customers. But what you're testing here again is whether your product delivers the solution effectively. So how you go to market at this stage, again, is different. Depending on your customer, it could be channel partners who are small enough to look into a company of your size, right? People that could give you more, like normally in South Africa, a B2C is really hard. So a lot of businesses find a way or try to mimic a B2B2C model, right? But even if you're considering channel partners, it's most likely people who aren't that big, right? So you're not worried about logos at this point. You're just trying to get to your ideal customer again, in the shortest time possible, and you're testing whether your product delivers a solution effectively, right? Now, the last stage, again, this is just overarching. But now that you have a bit more traction, you're looking at distribution channels, right? Do my distribution channels allow me to reach my target market efficiently, right? And the reason why I say this here is because there are a lot of issues that plague trying to reach your end user, right? In my world, I call those broad ranges contactability issues, right? So getting people's verified numbers and so on, people on social media, it's hard to really track them down. People in Africa may behave a little bit different with social media as people in the Western world. So things like paid ads don't always work that great, right? So, but here, then you're testing whether your distribution channels allow you to reach your target market efficiently, right? Again, it's a way of thinking that will help you understand where you are and maximize your resources at that stage. So it does happen oftentimes that what you're trying to solve for can help multiple user profiles, right? We spoke about this with Sami's solution around monitoring liquids, right? Wastage on liquids. So it could be a water company, it could be a fuel company, it could be a lot of things. Again, ideally, if it's a problem that you're very aware of, it's an industry you've worked in for long, or it's something that you're really passionate about, you've equipped yourself in, it's a little bit easier to identify some of these things. But assuming that you're either at the stage where you have a lot more interest from different types of people, or you maybe are looking for the best person to apply the solution to. This is an exercise I've done with a few of you during the office hours, right? So put down your personas, right? Persona 1 looks this way, persona 2 looks this way, and then you want to map out criteria that may be relevant. You will measure them across board, right? Things like willingness to pay, or how painful is it for them, right? How painful is it for someone if, like, they close the tap 10 seconds after they've removed the glass? Like, how much does it pain that person? Right? So you want to put all your personas there and measure them against the similar criteria and rate them, right? Again, we're trying to focus our efforts and energies here because we don't have infinite money. We're small, we're flexible, but we don't have infinite resources. So wherever you narrow down your resources to, and with some of the guys that I've done this with, the idea here was to generate some kind of score to help you target, to help you focus where you should target, right? Ideally, again, you want to go for all personas, but that's not advisable, right? Choose 1, 2 maximum and figure out like what their problem is or how you can apply a solution. So the thought here, right, behind like signals to move on, the subtitle is just, if you have validated the problem, but your ICP isn't using your solution, don't change the problem, change the solution. All right. So if you go look for a different person, then you risk losing a lot of the learnings you've had on the initial user that you are focusing on, right? But I would like to say that there are signals that will help you understand when to move on. Sometimes we do prioritize metrics that look good on a presentation, whether it's logos, whether it's this person works here or so on. But at the end of the day, if there is no value capturing, you're wasting your time. Right? So if there's refusal to pay for the product, it's probably a signal for you to move on. And it may not mean you necessarily leaving that user, but you holding your solution a bit loosely, right? You're trying to figure out, is this, why wouldn't you buy this thing? Why wouldn't you pay for this thing, right? Another one that I come across often is pilot extensions in perpetuity. This often happens when you work with the government, and I've been in the situation. So if you feel like these pilots aren't going anywhere, it's probably a signal to move on, or look for something, if it's within what you're trying to solve for, a narrative that you should rather focus on. Never ending show and tell meetings. Corporates love this. You're getting invited to meetings to meet the next person and the next person and the next person. Again, if you're seeing some of these signals, it's probably a good sign for you to understand that you may not be solving a burning issue for your user profile. So some questions to consider. Maybe I can just, if we have office hours, I'm free to share some of these questions. But essentially, when you're asking someone to understand about their problem, you don't want to put your solution in a world where they have the problem, right? Your solution shouldn't factor at that point in time. Try understand in the purest form as much as possible what they're going through and remove as much bias as possible. But yeah, essentially you got it, and we'll figure it out together.